So we're in part two of our example of managing compensation costs. We're using Excel to examine salary structure and the implications of cost of living adjustment. And so in part one, we looked at calculating the salary structure. We took our base salary and the factor that is specified for the difference between each step in a grade, and we calculated that VLOOKUP table. And we are now going to apply this in generating our salaries and generating the individual cost of living adjustment and totaling that all up. And so that's what we're doing in this analysis here. But before we get to that, we're going to do one more thing on our VLOOKUP table here, and we're going to calculate the midpoints of each grade. Again, there's grade 14 through 21, and you'll see that we're going to have this a formula that we're going to apply for each grade, and as we enter that, you can see in the box at the top how I'm entering that formula, and those cells being used in the formula being highlighted. That's kind of a nice thing to look for as you're doing this work. Excel gives you some features to kind of check that you're doing what you intend to do along the way, and I find those things to be helpful. Hopefully you do too. So after we do that, we'll have our midpoints for each of those grades, and that then will fill in some of that information at the bottom that we have. And so our VLOOKUP table is complete at that point. We can next get to using that information in our employee file here. And in this table, again, we've got the individual employees, and we're going to use the VLOOKUP function. And in this, we're going to specify the grade and the step for each employee, and that allows us to look up that value in that table that we created, and that is the salary. And then we'll look at how much another cost of living adjustment is going to cost for this. And so again, this is ways that we can again manage compensation in terms of how we incentivize progress and promotion in terms of job grades and steps. And how much do we want to do that? That's a strategic decision. Again, it should be linked to strategic goals. And then, of course, cost of living adjustment is another factor in our compensation policy. You can see here as I'm putting in and applying this VLOOKUP command, part of that command is coming from the step and grade cells that are right next to that salary column, and then it's also using that information then to refer to the VLOOKUP table, and that is giving us our salary. And I'm just going to let this command keep going here, and you again can speed this up or advance, or if you need to slow it down and see what I'm doing. If you get stuck in your assignment, you might want to come back to this portion and see what I'm doing here. Again, if you do have questions, you can always contact me, and I'm happy to consult and answer questions that you have. Now that we've got that salary information in there, we can start calculating what the value will be for the COLA the next time out. And so I'm taking that cell with the salary and multiplying it by that factor that we have and multiplying it by the COLA, which is 3%. And you can see as I do that, speed this up a little bit, and that process is pretty clear, I think, for you by now. And once we've got that, we can start looking at, what is the total salary? What is the salary plus COLA? And then what is that COLA cost? And so we can see that by summing that up and then doing the difference between those cells, that we can calculate the cost of inflation in uh, our salary costs, and so that's costing over $200,000 for the organization. And here we are looking at the correlation between the points and the grades of our uh, job evaluation system. This is kind of just a check. We should find a very high correlation here. Um, and if we don't, then we have to really be concerned that something's off with our data. But this is a good kind of quality control kind of check to do when you are doing job evaluation. And you can see that, yes, we have a very strong correlation approaching 1, and that tells us that our grades and our job evaluation points are in sync with one